Okay, so I'm Chris,
I'm Nick.
and we just saw Beau is Afraid, the new Ari Aster movie, 2023, and we haven't resisted the urge to talk about it so far since watching it. So this is everything we thought about it. It is definitely insane. We both agree. What do you think about it?
There's a lot going on. It felt like there was like multiple stories in one movie.
Yeah, so I think you kind of can put it together by the end of it, but it's certainly a story about Joaquin Phoenix's character from childhood to now, and like an interconnected story about all of it and his relationship with his mother. But they tell it in so many spliced together different kinds of ways. So I guess should we start at the beginning and like talk about what the plot is from the beginning of it? I guess, or
yeah, I guess like him in the therapist's office.
Yeah, so he's walking into the therapist's office, and it seems like a normal meeting with a therapist, and you can tell the therapist like knows that there's like a sensitive spot is his relationship with his mother, and the phone call, like a phone call happens with it's his mother on the phone. His therapist can see it, and
doesn't pick up the phone, which is kind of telling that he
doesn't pick up the phone. Got some like obvious anxiety about the phone being his mother, and let's see. So he says he's visiting his mother this weekend, and the therapist knows about that, and he asks him a bunch of unusual questions about, like, from our perspective, walking into this, we don't know, I guess,
anything about their relationship.
Yeah, we don't know why it's so obvious that this is like, there's nothing coming from Beau except his anxiety that's saying like, why would he be so nervous about this? It's just like, yeah, he's going home. It's been a while. And the therapist is like, yeah, I know it's a problem, and he asks him if he wishes his mother was dead sometimes, and he acts like that's a crazy question, but you can tell like maybe it's not such a crazy question. Like surely he's thought about wishing his mother was dead.
Yeah.
And let's see, what's the next thing that happens?
From there, I think he leaves.
He goes home, and like on his way home, you're just seeing what it's like in this town.
Yeah, the whole town is just crazy.
Completely, like it's like Sodom and Gomorrah, like just people ravaging the streets and like fighting to the death in the streets, and no one cares at all.
Whole crowd.
I wish I could remember like all the little things we saw, but just everything along the way is just cranked up to 1,000.
And like, there's just so many things like audio things happening off screen that you don't see that sound wild as well.
Yeah, well, and it's also like the score of the movie just makes sure you're like anxious the whole time. Like nothing's quite. It's like make sure you uneasy. Know. Yeah, like, this isn't normal world. Everything's off kilter a little bit. It's not quite right. It's not normal.
It's definitely a different like type of universe or something.
Yeah, it's like alternate universe where it's like, nobody cares at all that the cities are just and like it seemed like, well, that's skipping ahead, but yeah, the world is just crazy, and he's like has to sprint run to his apartment to
not get attacked
by this like heavily tattooed, face tattooed, blacked out.
It's really strange. It's almost like they're all like giving into base instinct.
Or, like, it's crazy, like pure id, but he's like. It's like, why hasn't it taken him over too, or something? It's like there's no one, hardly anybody is like normal at all, and he's not really normal either.
Yeah,
he's just like a more.
Everybody's kind of like extra of what they would be normally, I guess. So like his anxiety is just through the roof of everything he does.
And I feel like he like put on, and I guess we should say like Joaquin Phoenix.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm not going to say carries it because everybody does a good job, but like Joaquin Phoenix is just amazing in it, and doesn't really look like Joaquin Phoenix that much because that he's aged and the hair is thinning and he just looks really disheveled and like gained weight. But okay, so anyway, he makes it into his apartment and he has to just sprint run to get in there, and his whole journey there is so bizarre and
it's not just like a normal apartment either. It's like this. Like a punk bar apartment, like there's writing all over the walls with crazy drawings.
Yeah, some of the graffiti. I wish we could have like paused moments of that and read some of that graffiti. Like the guy like the guy with
hissing in his own mouth.
Yeah, giant.
It's like, I'll take some of that.
Or what does he say? No. Oh, I wish I could think of what
Oh,
it
yeah, I
actually
can't
says.
remember what it was. Did you see the
Like,
one on the other
don't
side?
mind if I do.
There was don't mind if I do. I think, and then the other side there was like a face, and I didn't notice it until like because I was so focused on that. And there was like a dick and balls going into the face and into the mouth. And I was like, not this again.
Yeah, and just the writing on the walls, but like the whole movie had this like half. It's like a certain flavor of comedy throughout it, even though like it's funny in the weirdest kind of way. But I did find myself laughing.
Yeah, there were definitely funny moments,
but just funny in like the most bizarre ways. But so he gets to his apartment, and
there's a sign on the door too about the brown recluse spider that's loose in the building.
Yeah, a sign on the door of like this gory photo of a hand with a like festering brown recluse bite on
decaying flesh.
It looks like the cigarette packs in Australia that like warn you about like what it does to your lungs to smoke cigarettes. But so there's this warning on his door, and then as soon as he walks in the door, we see like from inside the room, the spider like the spider is in his house and just scoots under the couch, and he walks in the door, and what did he take it? He takes a bath? Or... No. I
don't think he took a bath. Yeah.
No. So he has to leave to go visit his mom.
Well, I think before that happens, though, I don't remember. I think it might just cut to it where he's like laying in his bed trying to go to sleep, and then notes start flying under the door.
Oh yes, that's it. Yeah, so he's going to bed that night, and there's all this noise everywhere. Like it sounds like an episode of Cops.
Yeah,
is playing in like every
it's like gunshots.
Like it just sounds terrible everywhere. Sirens constantly and everything. And then he quietly gets this note under his door, and it wakes him up. And he reads the note, and it says like, please turn your music down. It's really, you remember you have neighbors or something like that.
But there's no sound going on.
There's no sound coming out of his apartment. It's loud everywhere else, and there's no sound coming out of his. And then like it shows him go to sleep and cuts to like maybe an hour and a half later, and it says like please, people are losing valuable sleep here. You've got to turn your music down. It's late. And then the next one is like. It is the next one. There's one where they slide it really so far under the door, and you can tell they're pissed off. They slide so far under the door, and it slides all the way to their bed, to his bed. And I think that's the one that there's one that says like, I tell you to turn the music down, and you turn it up. And then at some point, I think there's more notes, and then at some point he's like, I'll fucking show him and throw, there's all these, tons of notes, and.
But after he gets that note, he's laying in bed, and then just the walls flex out with like the music coming from his next door apartment,
pumping in this theater, and the walls are vibrating with the sound of this bass, and that's you're meant to understand that's the rest of the night. Like the next time it cuts, it's just him. It's like him trying to go to sleep with his finger in his ear, and then he wakes up with his finger like long after his alarm has gone off, and it's 3:45 or something like that, and he has to be on the airplane at 5:30.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's brushing his teeth in a hurry, and
he's got his bag all packed.
Ready
to go.
What is it that causes him to have to?
So he goes out there. Puts his bag in the hallway. He has his keys in the door, ready to lock it. Then he realizes he forgot something, and he runs in and grabs it. Comes back. Keys are gone. Bag's gone.
Yeah, and it's like this place is so awful. He knows that like there's no amount of time you can really trust that there. So I mean, it's almost like
he was gone less than 5 seconds.
He's gone less than 5 seconds, but that's how long it takes in this place. You're meant to understand. And so now he has no bag, no keys, and he's freaking out. And I think more than anything, he's freaking out because he has to tell his mom that the situation's shot.
Yeah.
And I'm probably not going to make it there on time because my keys are gone, and without changing my locks, somebody's got a key to my apartment. So I just don't think it's safe to come. And I would say on the phone she seemed like nice enough at first. It's like, what's the big deal about his mom at first?
Oh yeah, she was very, very nice. And then it's like when it comes to telling her that he's not going to be able to come, she's like, well, okay, yeah, sure.
There's a ton of silence
between,
like he's just like, oh no, it's fine. Well, maybe I'll find a way to actually be able to come. And
just no response.
She just leaves him hanging for so long, and you can tell like it's a heavy.
It's like an
silence. There's a lot in that silence.
Yeah. And then whenever she does talk, she's like, okay. Yeah, I'm sure you'll do what's best.
It feels like, I can tell you, obviously you don't care about your mother at all.
Very manipulative,
It's fine. If you don't care about your mother at all, that's fine. That makes sense. And so what, he gets off the phone and decides he's. Oh no, I don't know. I can't remember. But there's a point where he's got this medicine. We got to mention this at the beginning. There's a medicine at the beginning that his therapist prescribes him. That's like, I got this new medicine that's fly. Like the therapist is like talking funny at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like he's like, yeah, man, that's cool. He's like, yeah, my guy, I got this new medicine for you, and the new medicine. He's like, you have to always take it with water. Make sure. Always with water, and it's really, you can tell, like, it's emphasized, this is going to be important. So he takes these pills, and I think it's like in a moment of anxiety about the whole situation. He takes these pills, and there's like a drop of water in his bottle, and the water's out at the apartment. So he's trying all the faucets, and water doesn't work anywhere. And
like he Googles side effects of taking the medicine without water, and the first thing that pops up is like an obituary for somebody.
Yeah, my son. Yeah, it was like, it's like in memory of
Pete
Bill or whatever. Yeah. And so he's panicking. He has to come up with a plan to get across the street and buy. He sees these bottles of water through the window.
It's like a glorious moment, like this.
Yeah, it's like radiant. Water bottles across the street, being like a pallet of water bottles. And so he's got to go across the street, but
he doesn't have his keys. So when he exits the door, he sees a stack of phone books, and he puts a phone book down to try to keep the door open. But he also knows that all these people out here are crazy.
I mean, there's literally right now, there's a guy as this is happening. There's a guy just poking a guy to death in the eyeballs, with his thumbs in the street. And so he has to, he does the phone book thing and something else. He just finds ways to prop everything open so he's not going to get locked out. But he knows it's like, any amount of time, somebody's going to walk in there and it's trouble. And he's trying to buy the water, and he has like his
credit card doesn't work.
His credit card doesn't work.
So it seems like his mom
that's
pays for stuff, and like she just cut his credit card off immediately, and he's like, I can't make it, I'm sorry.
That's what it looks like, is his money is coming from his mom, and she just cut him off like as soon as he can't make it. She just cut him off. And so the card doesn't work, so he's only got like, he's like a cents shy, and this guy at the service station or whatever is just giving him such a hard time and won't take, even just a few cents, and you can tell the guy's panicking.
And all the meanwhile is happening while he's trying to pay. Like he keeps looking out on the street where all these crazy people were, and they're like just filing in the door to his apartment complex.
It's like the entire street of crazy madness. It's like there was like a circus of madness in the street, and they all just file in. Everyone files in, and you can see like he gets that water, and the guy's saying he's going to call the cops, and it's like, he's just 1 second away, and the person who lets the door close at the very last moment like sees him do it and is like walking backwards, staring at him like they're like, we know you're not getting in, and this is your house. And let's see what's next. He
it closes in front of him, and he just like looks up and sees all the people in his apartment, and there's like some scaffolding next to his apartment.
Well, and we should also say that there's a lot of like this, it's super stylized, everything. And one of the things that they're doing, and it's hard to explain kinda, but I guess not really, but like one of the things they keep doing is Joaquin Phoenix's character, usually it's like he has a moment of something just particularly sucks in this moment. Like he just had a realization of some sort, or whatever. Nothing's going right for this guy. I mean, it's like a comedy of errors. Nothing's going right. And every time something like big happens like that, it'll be like he just wherever he is at, he just stops, and then you can tell the time like clicks over, and it's been a certain amount of time has passed. Sometimes like extreme amounts of time where it's like, and so he didn't move that whole time, huh? And I guess that's right. Like there's periods of time where Joaquin Phoenix
just checks out with his anxiety,
standing somewhere, and he just doesn't move after that. And so that's one of those times, like everybody goes in the apartment, and it's like he's like in the street, right, for a while, and then he finds the scaffolding, walks up the scaffolding, and ends up sleeping on the scaffolding, and wakes up to like a dude. Everybody's just ignoring everyone else. Like a guy's just like doing some construction. I don't know if there was any significance of that. I missed it if there was, the construction he was doing.
I don't think so. I think he was just putting up more scaffolding, but it was just like the drill bit kept going on the same piece, and sawdust was just raining down.
He's just covered in, he's just like been snowed on with sawdust. And so nobody has any care for anybody else in the world, and
except for the people in the apartment. It seemed like they were just partying, except for the one guy was still gouging out the, like, it's like he dragged him up there by the eyes and kept gouging his eyes out in the apartment.
Well, so all that craziness and partying, more than just partying. I mean, they're just destroying his place. Everything's just completely, but whenever that's over, he manages to get back in there, and I'm not skipping ahead, am I? Like
Yeah, no, I think that's right.
He's
He's able to get back in because like the somebody broke the glass of the front door, so he's able to walk in through that, and he kind of like goes up the elevator.
He's just seeing like the carnage and all the graffiti all over his wall, but like when he walks up to his door, the guy with all the tattoos and everything is dead on the floor with,
which looks like a brown recluse.
Is that a brown recluse bite on his neck?
Thinking.
Okay, so he's dead on the floor. He's got his phone in his hand.
And it says 911.
He almost
made it to 911.
Yeah, he almost made it to 911. And so he's what's next? He's in the house.
Yeah, I think he's in the house and he starts a bath. He starts running the water, and then he goes out to call his mom to see about, because like he's looking at a flight. I think after he puts everything together and he sees that he can get a flight out, and he's going to call his mom to see if she can help pay for it because his card got declined trying to pay for the flight to get there again.
And I guess Bill...
It didn't sound like Bill Hader on the phone. There's no way that
either Bill Hader or someone else. I don't know why they would do that, but it didn't occur. I feel like I would recognize Bill Hader's voice.
For sure.
I didn't recognize Bill Hader's voice.
I feel like it sounded way different, but yeah.
If it was or wasn't, the point is somebody else picks up the phone that isn't his mom, and he's like, "Who is this?" And it's a whole thing.
It's pretty intense.
That I'll, I guess, abbreviate and just say that so the guy, it's like he's like a UPS delivery guy, and he's just like, "Hey man, I just picked up the phone. I don't know who you are. I probably shouldn't have picked up this phone, but something happened here that's, it's kind of vague." And then we find out like, he says like, "There's a lady here," and he's like, "Don't worry, man. The police are on the way already. Like, police will be here soon." And he's like, why did you call the police? Why would the police be there? And he's like, this lady, and basically what we're learning is there's a lady that's dead here. And he says she doesn't have a face or a head anymore. Like her face and head are gone.
To describe her. And he's like, brown eyes, brown hair. It's like, what would be more of like her figure or something?
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even, yeah. That's interesting. Yeah.
They made it a point to be like him describing those two things. And he's like,
anything about something that's not on the face,
because the head is gone.
Yeah. So, and then we find out it's a chandelier. So a chandelier has fallen on his mother, and it takes him a long time to like. He's not willing to accept that that's what's happening, and he's like, maybe you misdialed. Maybe you should call back call this phone back, and then you'll be more sure that it is.
But it's all the while he didn't dial a number. It's just saved his mom.
He knew.
Yeah.
But it's just like he didn't really realize it, or he didn't want to accept it. And then when he calls back, the guy is just like, "I'm so sorry," and it is for sure, And so that's another one of those moments where he's like, pause right there, and the bath that he started running is just overflowing out. I mean, it's about to hit his phone
into the living room. Yeah,
it's about to hit his phone and his foot. Like he waits a long time to do anything about that, and all he really does about it is just shut the water off and walk in there and take a bath.
Yeah,
and then the next thing happens.
Oh yeah, the next thing happens. But also when he's getting in the bath, you can kind of see that he's got a giant ball sack. Oh,
yes,
yeah.
Which I cannot believe it, but Joaquin Phoenix's giant ball sack plays a big role.
Yeah.
In this movie,
and it kind of makes me.
And I think he got it.
I feel
from
like
his father.
Oh, that's true.
But anyway,
I thought it could have been a joke, and I'll say what the joke is about it later.
Oh, yeah. I kind of know what you're saying. Yeah, but the next thing that happens is that
there was a specific guy that we didn't talk about saying, "Help me, help me, help me" outside,
mm-hmm.
And he's one of the people who made it into the party. So Joaquin Phoenix is laying in the bath, and he kind of looks up, and this guy is just like doing his arms,
and this guy would not be able to do that, by the way.
Yeah, no.
Like in real life, that guy would not be just sitting there on the ceiling for a long time.
Just legs and arms holding himself on the ceiling, and you don't notice it. Like you kind of see like some water droplets falling. You're like, okay, that's kind of weird. Maybe he has a leak, and then it shows up there, and the guy's just staring down at him.
For sure, you can tell like he is seconds away. He can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
And now Joaquin Phoenix is seeing this too. And then like at the last minute.
Yeah, he starts very slowly getting out of the tub, and at the last minute the little brown recluse flies on the guy's face.
Freaks
and
him
just
out.
Falls down into the tub.
And it's
Joaquin.
a whole... Oh, and we should have said... Okay. Flashback. At the very beginning of the movie, and I didn't say anything about this, but I think this is on purpose. I don't know. But at the beginning of the movie, the very beginning is just like blackness and some like muffled sounds, and you realize that you are, and I kind of figured it out pretty early.
I kind of figured it, yeah, it made sense, especially when you start seeing a little bit of red.
You can hear people like screaming, and anyway, but you can tell eventually that you're a baby in the womb about to be born.
Yeah.
And it's kind of semi-traumatic, but you can't, like, it's very realistic as far as, I thought they handled that super well. Like,
yes,
it's very realistic as far as, like, your vision is shot.
And now that I think about it, there was a shot where they're holding up the baby and they slap him on the butt.
Mm-hmm.
That baby had big balls.
Did it?
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to.
Not, like, massive, but, like, for a baby.
We'll have to go back and run this. So it's basically like the beginning of that, is the birth, the birthing and everything, and it's dramatic and everything, and you can tell the mother is not having a good time, and it's crazy. But all that to say, at this point in the movie, when they're wrestling around and trying to kill each other in the tub,
it's reminiscent of
like his birth,
getting birth.
And he's naked, and in water and everything, but there's also like the way it's shot, it's like from Beau's eyeballs again, and it's in the water, and it's
like
very
a struggle, and
disorienting.
it definitely seemed like it was a struggle at birth as well.
And it's almost like water keeps being, I mean, we'll get into it.
It's a main theme, yeah.
Like water keeps coming back as like maybe like death is the form of water, and we're showing like birth and like he almost died. Maybe he could have almost died. He doesn't die in the tub with the guy.
Yeah.
But it's like he was wrestling with death there, which is like this similar. Maybe I think that was an intentional. Like the cinematography between the two things are similar. But so he doesn't die with the guy. I can't remember. What happens with the guy?
I think the guy just stays. He wrestles.
He drowns the guy, I guess, right? Or
it doesn't really show. I think Joaquin just gets out, and the guy's still kind of in the tub, and then he just fucking freaks out. Runs out of the apartment's naked. Yeah,
so he's okay. It doesn't matter what happens to the guy.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter what happens to the guy because he runs out of the street naked and goes up to the nearest cop, and the cop looks like he just did like it looks like a 3-day meth binge or something like that. Like the cop's like strung out.
He's talking to a prostitute,
but like casually talking to a prostitute. And it's daylight. It's just crazy. Like everything is so anarchy. Yeah, it's
like why? I mean, I guess it makes sense to have the cop for that scene, but it's like there's definitely police aren't doing anything in this town.
Yeah, but that's the joke, I guess, of it.
Yeah.
But so he goes up to this cop. He's like, somebody's trying to kill me. Whatever. And we didn't mention this earlier, but he's going to give his mother this gift that he just kind of.
Now that I think about it too, it's a statuette of a mother holding a child, I believe.
And it felt like. In the moment that he bought it in the movie, it felt like it was like a last minute, got to buy something for your mom.
Yeah.
And what's the occasion again?
It's the anniversary of his father's death.
It's the anniversary of his father's death, which is a strange. He's never met his father, and it's the anniversary of his father's death. So that's a strange thing to get together. I didn't even think about how weird that is, really, to get together for that purpose.
Especially if you never knew him.
Mm-hmm. But they're getting together for But so he gets this gift for her, and it's one of those little. It looks like just like a Target. Kind of generic ceramic statuette of a mother holding a little baby,
almost like robed, kind of like Mary from the
like
Bible.
No silhouette. Like everybody in Tennessee has that. Like their mom or their aunt has that.
Somebody
kind of,
has that
probably Texas too.
Yeah,
but so that he buys her that gift. Well, he's like clutching that in grief of her and everything when he's in the tub. And so when he runs out, he's still holding that in his hand, and the cop is just screaming at him to put on his weapon, or like drop the weapon. And the cop is obviously so messed up. It's like nothing makes sense what he's doing right now. Obviously, this guy needs help. Naked in the street, dripping wet.
Literally,
somebody's screaming.
He's yelling, "Freeze! Freeze!" He's like, "I'm frozen! I'm frozen!"
Yeah, he's like, So he's like drop the weapon, and he drops the weapon, which isn't a weapon, and it's the little figurine that's very important to him all of a sudden. He wrote on the bottom of it. It's like there's a long moment there about the running, and it shatters on the ground in a few pieces, and at the last minute, like right, you see that happen in like slow motion, and the cop's like, just please don't make me do this. Don't make me do this, man. And like nobody's
doing anything.
Nobody's making you do anything.
Frozen.
And he starts shooting, and Beau starts running and runs out in front of a vehicle and smashes up on the windshield. And that's the first time I'm sure that you can tell
he's got
a big old set.
Oh yeah,
nuts. Yeah, like abnormally so.
Like I'd say grapefruit size at least.
Yeah, like the two of them together are like one normal sized grapefruit.
Yeah,
but so the next and wait, is there a hallucination thing there?
I don't think there is a hallucination.
I think there is.
Is there? Which one was it?
I think it's just like a quick flashback of his mother. I want to say.
I think it was where he's in the tub as a mother with his mother.
There's a lot of moments where they kind of have him recalling things with his mom,
because he keeps talking. Like at the beginning, we didn't say either. He talks about how he keeps having this dream, and the therapist just kind of brushes it aside and it's like, let's talk about this instead. But that is the reoccurring dream where he's in a tub, but he sees his mother talking to himself.
We don't know about that yet, but we could just talk about that because it is coming to mind right now. I don't want to forget it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We can bring it up later because it happens multiple times.
Yeah, but there's a lot of things with his mother. Like you can tell his mother is like, you get the feeling that his mother, the controllingness of his mother is like, he can't escape it. It's like his life can't progress because of this ever in the back of his head. It's like she doesn't have to be nearby.
Yeah.
In the back of his head, he's always got his mother like judging him for everything he does. And it's like he feels like he has to ask permission for everything or ask what she would do or.
Yeah. Like he can't make a decision for himself.
He's got to know what mom would do. And he's a very like timid, meek, like he's not playing a typical like Joaquin Phoenix. Like he's the most soft spoken I've ever heard him. Like he's just his voice is so small.
Yeah, it's almost like raspy when he speaks because it's.
Yeah, he just like has just the quietest voice, smallest voice. It's like he's trying to be as small as possible all the time. But so what's next? Where are we at now?
So he gets hit by the truck. He has that little vision, and then he wakes up in a bedroom that is clearly a teenage girl's bedroom. Pink walls,
very into K-pop.
K-pop posters all over the walls. Mm-hmm. But he's in like. I guess it's not a hospital bed, but they have it set up like he's got an IV in his arm.
It's like what is she?
The husband, I guess, turns out he's a surgeon. She is like a businesswoman.
Yeah, so she just I guess knows because of. But yeah, he's set up with a drip, an IV drip, and they've taken care of him and everything.
And the little figurine is glued back together.
Yeah, that's one of the first things we see is the figurine glued back together, and it says like "glue's still drying," smiley face. It's the first time in the movie where there's any kind of reprieve from bleakness and like everything is just shitting on Beau. Everything about the world hates Beau. Like they cannot get anything right.
Opposite almost. Like it's a super nice.
Yeah, for a moment it's like, ooh, these people. There's actually some normal, nice people somehow left in the world, and they care about this guy for some reason. And it's almost overkill, but like not to the point where it's like, if you're from the South, like you can expect people like strangers. You're not so shocked by like strangers, especially like ladies, having like a laying on the hospitality real thick and being really sweet and everything. So it doesn't seem too off. But she says like, he's like, oh, did I get hit by a car? He can barely speak, but did I get hit by a car? And she's like, yeah. And there was also an attack. And he's like, what? He doesn't even remember that at all. And she's like, yeah, there was a stabbing. And it shows there's this homeless man that was mentioned earlier on the news. And
he's just naked.
Yeah, he's always naked, running around stabbing people. And I thought it was so funny that they make it where the news broadcast thing is on the news. They don't censor out this like nude guy just ranting and raving on the street, covered in blood and everything. And the way they say, what is it they say?
He's running around stabbing people in the throat and guts.
Yeah, like they're describing it so funny. Like and then they say he's described as a circumcised white male of 54 years old or whatever. So all that's played for Like, the whole thing really is played for like a weird kind of laugh.
Before he gets hit by the car, when he runs out naked, he sees the guy stabbing somebody like across the street from where his apartment is before he runs over to the cop.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he looks just like, not just like, but similar enough to the guy. That's probably what's freaking the cop out.
Oh,
like,
maybe
this
so.
guy could be the fucking serial
that is
stabber.
I cannot. That's the most obvious thing.
You
I
didn't
can't
get that
believe
at
it.
the point?
I thought that he was like.
Just
I thought the
freaking
cop
out.
was just so methed out that he just doesn't know what to do with the situation in front of him. But there's literally, but it's like funny too because
the cop doesn't see it happening.
The stabbing is happening over here,
fucking 30 feet away,
and it's like now that you're right in his face, you know. But
so it shows after she tells him there was a stabbing.
She like this, as she's describing that he got stabbed, and then it's showing like moments of
him getting stabbed,
and it is crazy. Especially he gets stabbed in the hand. It's
very gruesome,
over and over again through the
which
hand.
you would expect from Ari Aster from Hereditary and Midsummer, like some gruesome shit. So like it is comedy through lots of parts that are funny, but there's some things in this movie that like pretty fucking brutal. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, the hand stabbing got me more than he stabs him in the side too, and that was very convincing and everything and brutal too. But the hand really was
just repetitive.
He just will not stop.
He's like, "Why are you doing this?"
Straight through his hand.
Yeah.
And but now he's in, like I think we said
the teenagers
out loud. It's like the warmest movie of the point of the movie so far, and you think maybe things are going to be all right for a second. I mean, if you know Ari Aster, it's not going to be all right ultimately. But like,
it seems like a very nice, well-to-do family.
And so is the moment he meets the mother of the family, who is played by
I think her name's Amy Ryan. Holly from The Office.
Amy Ryan, yeah. As soon as we meet her, she's, bubbly and nice, and
they're basically treating him immediately after he wakes up, like as part of the family. Which at first I was kind of thinking they're doing that because they just hit him with their fucking car and they don't want him to like get any like ideas of
be litigious. Yeah, but and Nathan Lane is the husband, and his character is a surgeon. So they patched him up with the stab wounds and everything. They've got him on this medication, and we find out later there's this daughter that is just the epitome of like this bratty, pissed off daughter that seems really upset that he's staying in her room and kicked her out of her room, and he's like, oh, he just woke up. He's like, oh. You can have your room back. I'll take the couch. And she's like, no, have my room. Enjoy it. She just couldn't be worse to this guy. And
I think they sit down for dinner that same night, and they're talking, and they tell him about their son who was in war, died in war.
Yeah, they have to have like a moment, like looking, like a moment of silence, I guess, like looking over at they have like kind of a shrine of their son that was killed in action. So they have that moment, and then they talk about that for a second. Something else weird happens at the dinner table, but it's not particular. I don't remember like that being particularly odd in that moment.
I missed that part because I stepped out for a second. But I think it might have been before the dinner actually, where he goes outside to call his mom to like see what's going on again, and somebody else answers the phone and is telling them like, we're waiting on you to bury the body, and this is very very disrespectful, and how dare you basically not be here already to bury
right. Somebody, is just berating him on the phone about how, the fact that like your mother's request was that you be here for the burial of the body, and, a body needs to be put to rest.
And meanwhile, that's happening. Like there's this crazy shit happening in the background. So this
is what you missed. I think you didn't see this at all.
Okay.
So we meet, like they go outside of the house, and there's this big burly, almost looks like the Mountain from. I mean, maybe not as he's not as tall big, like that, but a big stocky guy that looks like he could throw you. Is standing right there in front of him, just pretty silently, and they explain that this guy was served alongside their son and was with him when he died, and it's messed them all up. And you just see this guy doing some really bizarre stuff, like
he's got crazy PTSD. It's basically like he's still in war. I feel like.
Yeah, sure. So he's like swinging a shovel around really violently, and you can tell the way he's swinging that shovel around that he could absolutely like remove your head with the swing of one of those shovels.
Yeah.
And there's some other stuff, but there's like when he's learning about the news for the first time, or not the news, but when he's being chastised by his family member on the phone about not letting his mother go to rest. This guy's just like sliding down the hill slowly in the background, and
army crawling, and then he just jumps in the pool at one point.
Yeah, jumps in the pool, and let's see. Where were you at? Because I was realizing you didn't really hear the initial thing about who that guy is.
I think I just didn't hear the introduction, maybe, but I understood it when I got back. Like I heard a little bit. I was listening. I just didn't see what they were doing.
So let's see. What's the next thing that happens? So
I think then it's like the dinner after that, or I think he's asking them like, "Hey, I need to get home. Can you guys get me a flight?" And they're like, "Well, maybe in a couple of days we'll get you home," which was weird. They're like, maybe in a couple of days, and they know this is like a very drastic situation for him, and he needs to get home.
Yeah, and like right off the bat, it feels like anybody would be able to tell how distressed this guy is. Like he's in a psychological, like about to have a nervous breakdown in this situation, and Nathan Lane and everybody are all just very, well, especially Nathan Lane.
He's like, "Hey guy, hey buddy."
It's just very like, oh, it'll be no trouble to get you there tomorrow, and he'll like ask to be taken there tonight, and then it's like, oh, it'd be no trouble to take you there tomorrow. Like it's like something is definitely up here. We're being very casual about the whole thing, and he makes a point to be like, tomorrow's going to be okay, right? If we just go tomorrow.
Yeah, because initially they're like, we can go in like 2 days, and he's like, I can't wait 2 days. Like, well, maybe tomorrow will be all right.
Yeah, and you can tell he's like forcing him, and Beau is such a timid, meek, pushover of a person that like he's like, no, Beau, it's your decision. Is tomorrow fine? And in that moment, it's like, okay. He does very timidly say it's okay, and that comes into play later. But so now it's the next day, and like there's some emergency that happened with a
surgery he has to go do.
Yeah, he gets a phone call, and it's like, oh, this patient I've had for the longest time, he split his head open. I've got to do the surgery right away. You'd understand if we're, it's not because I had to push all the whatever. And it's it feels like there's always going to be, every day he's going to wake up and there's going to be a new reason. He's not going to get home
is what it seems like.
Yeah. So anyway, he leaves and goes to the surgery, and Beau is like really freaking out about the fact that all these people are waiting for him to bury this body, and he's still not, nothing works out for him to get there. It almost feels like a nightmare where there's like you ever have the nightmares where like you can't get to the place you need to go? Like this movie felt like that.
It just keeps taking you one way or the other.
Everything.
Like, I really have to get.
You keep trying to get there, and it's like nothing's allowing you to get there all the way. And but so he so now he's at the house.
I think he's at the house. A really weird thing. It's like after dinner they go to sleep. They give him a gift. They give him pajamas, which already have his name like embroidered on them from the poster of the movie. And he's only been there 2 days, so it's like
yeah. And then he
walks out. So he walks to go to use the bathroom, and the daughter's on the couch, and he's like, "I really, 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 really don't mind. I'll sleep on the couch."
Yeah, we'll trade. You take the couch. I'll take the couch.
She's just like, "Shut up, get in my room."
Yeah, shut up and sleep in my bed. And then what is it like the next? I don't remember exactly.
I think it's the next
day. By the way,
day.
she's popping pills like candy the whole time. She's just got like multiple bottles of pills, like a little snack hoard, but it's just pills, and she's just like tossing. It's like she's not even looking at what she's Skittles. And I hope we're not missing something, but there's a point near like very soon where it's like she shows up and he's like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "I'm taking you to the."
So what it is he's like looking up stuff about his mom on the computer, and there's like a news report, and you see somebody who looks familiar to him, and just for some reason projectile vomits all over the laptop.
That's right. You can tell that person was like, it's a crazy thing to see her.
Yeah. And then she walks in. She's like, "You just threw up on my laptop," and he's like, "Well, I'm sorry."
Yeah, it's a bad look. And so now she's like, she has to tell him, like, she's so pissed off at him, but she has to tell him that she's going to take him home or take him to the airport or whatever. Home, yeah. And so he gets in the car, and her little friend light a joint of some sort, and then they turn around and are filming him. They turn around and are filming him.
Are you still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically saying that he has to smoke this.
Yeah, he has to hit this joint, and he's like, "What's in it?" He's like, "No, I'm good."
They're like, "There's a few things in it."
Yeah, she's like, it has 3 things in it.
He's
And
like,
he's like, no, I don't want
want it.
Yeah, they definitely they insist on it.
They basically say that they're gonna like blackmail him if he doesn't like just
Yeah,
say.
she says, I'll have her rip out my hair from the root and say you did it and how you've been. And she's like, yeah, like how you've been really abusing us this whole time. It's just like he's, and they seem like the kind of girls that would do that.
Oh yeah.
So,
So he starts taking a hit off. He takes a little baby hit off the joint. And they're like, no, 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 do it again. And then he starts hitting it, and they're just like, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. And then he finally just starts coughing his lungs out after he can't hit it anymore.
And it wasn't what I expected after that because it's not immediately like hallucinogenic or anything.
He's just like,
yeah, I don't know, and
it just slowly comes on a little bit.
So I think that it's like he's in like, is this where he's like kind of in dark water and he's like seeing hallucinations of his mother and stuff?
I think so. He's sitting in the car and they're driving around, and he kind of like it starts to get a little echoey with their voices, so you can tell he's getting high.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's sitting in like a dark watery area, but he's still in the car, like the chair of the car buckled in. And then it goes back to a flashback to where he's like on a cruise with his mom when he's a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And he meets the girl.
Oh yeah, he meets the little. So he meets this little girl while they're on this cruise, and I guess you can tell pretty much right off the bat that he's got like a kind of a crush on her. But
he's a very awkward kid.
He's a very awkward kid, and his mom is being really odd about him having a crush on this girl, and like they make it seem like she's just all the time quizzing him about like, is that the kind of girl you're attracted to? Like I can tell you, I know a lot about women. I can tell you what girls like and what. It's all played very odd.
And I don't know if you noticed it. Like every time it showed the little girl, there was like this fat, weird looking guy in the background, just like staring at her. Like he was like a pedophile. Like every scene she was in. Like when he first sees her, he's like in the background, just looking at her.
I didn't notice that.
And then like, so she starts. The next time we see her, she's running through the cabins on the ship, knocking on. I was like, there's a dead body in the pool, like happily, like she's excited to tell people. Yeah,
she goes around, it's like everywhere there's a dead body in the pool, and then she wants a picture in front of it, right?
Yeah, but the fat guy is like walking behind her slowly, like eating an ice cream cone or something.
Yeah, so they have like the way it's shot, they have a camera in the pool, so you're just watching this dead body floating around and watching while they're talking and watching her ask for a picture to be taken of her in front of the dead body, and but so he's obviously got this like long-standing crush with this girl, and then there's like a scenario where he gets his first kiss from her, and then it's supposed to be like kind of this quick like whirlwind romance. She's telling him she loves him immediately and everything, but something happens where, and maybe it's because of him.
Yeah, I think it was because her mom walks out when they're kissing, and she's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, and she's really upset about it, and so now she's got to leave. And she gives him a photo that he holds on to forever. That says,
"Wait for me."
Yeah, wait for me
until eternity or something.
Yeah. And so, that was the flashback, right? Of him on the drugs.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And then it basically just goes back like they didn't take him home. They just drove around the block and got him high, and then they go back to their house, and he's still kind of high.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then so. I can't remember. I'm missing things between there and here, but at some point, the girl like drags him into the room that nobody is allowed to touch. It's like untouched since the brother died. And she goes in there with these 2 buckets of paint and starts painting.
She paints Beau, his name, like on the wall.
Yeah, Beau on the wall, giant and pink over all his posters and everything. And because she's just insisting this whole time, like he's taking. This is her new brother.
She looks drugged out. Yeah, it seems like her parents really want to adopt him into the family, like out of nowhere. It's just
and even if maybe they do or maybe they don't, but it's like it's almost like she's decided that that's what's happening.
Yeah,
and
it did seem like they wanted to, because I mean they even said like you're part of the family now.
Yeah, so it is. Yeah, it's a very weird dynamic, obviously. But so she goes on the wall and paints that on the wall, and then then she's like, "We're gonna drink this paint."
Yeah,
and. She's like, "You're going first," and he's like, "No," and she's like, "Well, I guess I'll go."
And
whatever
she just starts chugging it. And he's like,
chugging paint.
"No, stop! No!" Like trying to get her to stop.
Yeah, begging her to stop. Will not stop. Just chugging paint down, and it's like, I guess her mom walks in the room in the middle of all this, and Beau's got paint all over him, and she's like already dead.
She's dead. Yeah, her eyes are like wide open, dead on the ground.
Mom tries to save her. She's freaking out, and you can, like, pretty early on you can tell the mom is going to blame him for this, and she's nuts. Like, she's going to lose her mind over this.
So, yeah, and she yells for like the crazy dude that was the brother's army mate or whatever, and then she's like, tear him into pieces, and he just takes off into the forest.
Yeah, she treats him like a guard dog or something.
Yeah,
like that.
We didn't talk about it, but we missed the part where before he gets called in to the room to drink, like, do the painting stuff, he's like sitting there watching TV. And this is the weird thing with the mom. It seems like she's trying to give him a hint of something, that something's weird. Because she's like, here's the remote, turn to channel 78. And he turns to it, and there's like a camera just pointing. It's like a CCTV
of him right now. Yeah, and he
rewinds
he rewinds it, which makes sense. Like, we're watching him rewind it, but then he fast forwards, and it literally shows things that are going to happen later in the movie.
Yeah, it just goes into the future basically.
But you don't know the context of any of it, so it's not like it's spoiling anything. But it's just like it's like it can fast forward into the future, so that's just something that happens in this universe. And
so then after that, the whole thing with the paint drinking, and then the guard guy getting sicked on him, he just sprints through the forest. And I think he hits his head, or no?
There's a point where he hits his head, but like nothing happens. Like, I think he has another flashback.
Yeah.
But we do get, I think pretty soon, if we haven't already, we do get a little more information about the flashback. Like, the flashback's like his. Am I wrong? Like, I think we've found out a little more now about what happens in the flashback. Maybe just not what this ultimately is happening, but like, I guess his mom is. His mom's. You think it's his mom?
I think in this one he hits his head, and it's his mom like telling him a story while he's in bed about his father. It's very detailed, and like these lights are going across her face the whole time, and like her face changes a couple of times.
I think she becomes like different people.
I think she becomes an older version of herself.
Yeah.
But she's basically telling him about how his father died, and his father had a heart murmur, and he died on the night of their wedding, which was the night he was conceived, and he died right after the conception. Because he died when he came inside of her, basically, is what
some kind of heart condition that makes it work. And he had been a virgin up until that point. Yeah. And he's like, and she tells him that everyone had this condition. It's in
his family, like his paternal grandfather, his great grandfather. It's hereditary. He has it too, so he can't.
Everybody has this, and everybody died of this all along the line. So he's like lived in fear of this, and. Well, anyway, but he runs into the woods.
Yeah, so he wakes up from that whole flashback of the weird explanation of how his father died, and he sees like a pregnant lady carrying a lantern, and she's like picking firewood up,
dressed in like this bright green. Like, she looks like she's from a different time period,
like a Rin,
but you don't know yet what's happening. Now, I'm not sure you ever fully find out what's happening, but it's almost like a traveling band of
troupe of.
Like stage performers that put on this play. It's like they move from place to place and find these areas that they can just like congregate in and practice for this play, and they ultimately finish out their time there with a big giant performance. It's all very dreamlike.
Yeah,
like that story itself is like dream, almost like describing a dream.
Tale, yeah.
But they put on this play, and so everybody's super nice to him now.
Yeah.
in this part of the movie.
And it's like they put on a play, and then it starts, and then all of a sudden he is the play, but it's a story about it. Kind of some of the stuff is like stuff that has already happened.
It relates to him a little, even just at the beginning of the play. Like they had just talked about. Well, and when they introduce him to everybody, they bring him out on stage with a spotlight.
Yeah.
And they're like, both of his parents are dead, and he's lost in the woods because there was an accident. And everybody's like, nice.
Yeah.
And then the play starts and it's the grave,
father gravestone,
grave of the mother and father, and this person mourning over his mother and father. It doesn't look anything like Beau, the actor. Like, it's not like they're even trying to make him look anything like Beau.
It's like an Asian kid.
But it's like there's like an angel with this crazy. There's these face masks that keep popping up that have like these paper mache face masks that keep popping up throughout. Kind of from this point on in the movie, they pop up a lot. But like people
for at least the forest scene, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it kind of like expressionless paper mache mask with just like a hole for the mouth, and this like angel comes down and tells them that basically like you've grieved them well. It's time to move on now and start your life and start your journey and everything. And so he goes to. It takes a little convincing, I guess, and then he goes to get up and follow on his journey, but he's chained down. And I think that's also supposed to be a metaphor for like how he's chained, like Beau's chained by his mother.
Yeah.
And now, like, I guess her dying was the axe, or making some kind of, like, he has to have courage and whatever. And
it just kind of turns into a different movie at that point, I feel like.
Okay, yeah, so it kind of turns into a different kind of movie once the play starts, because
it's like it turns into like an animated thing.
Well, the moment that the camera pans around and it's Beau with the chain that he just broke, like as soon as he breaks the chain, it's Beau.
Yeah.
And now everything's being narrated by the angel.
Yeah, of like the story of his life
going forward.
Yeah.
And so, and by the way, like, I don't know. It's yeah.
It's just like this long story about how he finds
it goes on for a long time.
So like accepts him and like this is what he wants in life basically, and he meets a woman. They have 3 children.
3
all
boys.
These great things happen. He learns a skill.
He passes the trade on to his sons.
Yeah, and like they build this house, and he tills the land and like makes food and everything. And
it's like they make an emphasis like about how he knows what it's like to taste food that he's grown himself, and he's built a house off of the land, and everything's being shown in like stage props and like paper mache and very like a play, and it's like it's almost intentionally low quality, like even like the superimposing of the actors on this is like it's kind of low quality, like it's very it's like intentionally low quality. I think I don't think any of it was accidental or anything like that, but so all that. I think
one day, and then after he has the kids and everything, and they've grown up a little while, a storm happens, and they all get like driven away by water, and it's like separated, and he spends the rest of his life searching for his family.
He lands somewhere. He lands in some town,
in some foreign town. They don't speak his language.
Yeah, they don't speak his language, and they pick on him and everything.
They run him out,
and he's just spent his whole life looking. And I think I can't remember what else happened to him, but anyway, he spends his life looking for his kids, and then it's like
seasons pass, like it's years and years. He's an old man now.
Yeah,
at this point.
He's about to starve to death, and all he can think about is food. And all he has is like $1 left. But he stumbles upon this play in the woods.
It's either a bowl of soup or a play, and he uses his last $1 for the play.
Or it's like I think it's like a bowl of soup for $1 or the play for $2, and he's like, I've got $2, and he spends his last $2 on the play.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so then he's at the play,
and it's describing everything that just happened, basically.
He walks up to the play, and it's a woman with the mask
telling 3
men
now,
about
the story of their father, and it even goes as far as like, and then he's in the audience, and he stands up and says, he's like, that's right before he stands up and says, "This is me."
Yeah, this is my story.
This is my story.
And then his sons realize this is all still being narrated by it, right? I think so. Or at some point she stops.
I think it might stop at this point.
She keeps narrating. I don't know, but he embraces his sons, and it's like it's not played for laughs. Like it's an emotional moment in the movie, and
then he tells them, they're like, "Where's mom?" He's like, "She's not with you." Very emotional. Like they have the big reunion, and
he looks at the woman on stage, like when they're asking about the mother, he looks at the woman on stage, and I thought maybe she was going to be like, I don't know, for some reason, just because of the mask and everything.
And then they kind of ask, like, do we have any other family? And he's like, they're dead. And he's like, well, how'd they die? And he tells them how his father has a heart condition. He died that way. And
they're like, how did you have us then?
Well, yeah, because I think he says, I've never been with anyone because of that. And they're like, you've never been with anyone?
Yeah, how did you have 3 boys then? And then and at the end, right?
And then it just cuts back.
He snaps out of it, and he's sitting watching the original play, like further along into that original play with the angel and everything. So we're in a totally different place in the play. And the woman in the reenact, like the play scene that we just talked about, the woman looks a lot like the pregnant lady that helped him in the woods.
Yeah. I think she had like a green dress on, but her whole body was like animated. Like they kind of scanner dark.
Oh yeah, like they kept.
But they made it worse quality. Like
they kept her very like painterly and not clear or whatever. So then I'm trying to think what the next thing is. The at the actual play where he really is at, there's this man that's been like in the like kind of in the corner, like he keeps noticing this guy observing him, and the guy finally approaches him and talks to him for the first time. And I don't remember exactly what's said right now. Do you?
I think he sits down, like he asks him if like he knows who he is or something. And in the beginning of the movie, you see he has a picture frame on his wall of his dad, but you can't see the face. It's like they took the picture mid of him moving his head.
You can tell something's funny about that picture.
And it looks like that guy.
He does say, like, your father's still alive, right?
I think so, yeah.
And he decides that this must be his father.
Yeah, it very much makes it seem like it was his father. He says that basically, I worked for your mother, I was in debt, my parents were in debt for your family, and I helped take care of your father and clean up after him. But then it also implies that like this guy might be his dad.
And the cleaning up after him and taking care of your father thing and everything, he kind of says it like it's more obvious, like you would know what's going on. And then Beau's like, clean up after him, and he's like, oh, there's something where he says like, he's like, oh, you don't know, have you seen your father, or like, do you know what it is? So it's a little foreshadowing, but not much. But then, like shortly after that, you hear the beeping of
because we didn't say it. He had an ankle monitor on from that family, and that guy's been chasing him with like a GPS app on his phone.
And the ankle monitor is like an early sign of like something's up with these people, because
he wakes up with it.
He says it's like a health tracker, and it updates him on his health status. But it's like, nah, man, that looks like an ankle monitor that tells you your location, and that is what it is. And so the guy, I can't remember his name, but the character that's running after, chasing after him, is like chasing him on an iPad, and you can hear the beep, 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 and people just start getting.
There's just an explosion where the guy who he thinks his father gets exploded with other people, and then he just runs out and starts shooting, and the gun's just full auto and doesn't run out of bullets.
And people are just getting. I mean, like, it's not just like people are getting shot; it's like people are, getting blown up almost.
Yeah. And so Beau takes off through the woods again. And he's running, and then you see a guy with a lute hit the guy in the back of the head that's shooting, and he falls on his own gun, shooting himself like in the chest and shoulder over and over, and it kills the guy behind him. And then he pulls on the GPS. The last thing he does is there's a button that says I don't know if it was neutral incapacitate, and he hits it, and then all of a sudden the ankle monitor just sends a shock through Beau, and he fucking passes out.
Yeah, you almost think. I mean, I wouldn't have been completely shocked knowing how crazy this movie was if that was the end of the movie. Like, it just kills him. He ran too far away from
I wouldn't have been
thing, but he's passed out. And then I think this is when he does have
dream sequence where you see like
the kid in the bath.
Yeah, it's like him looking at his mom. The kid is asking about the dad, and she's like, "You want to know so bad? I'll show you." But it's like Beau looking at himself from the bath and like seeing all this happen, and she lowers like the ladder from the attic in this room, and there's like water in between, so it looks like it's separated. And
okay,
so yeah, she pulls down the ladder after telling him like, "You want to see your father? I'll show you," or something along those lines. And it seems like this is like a punishment that she gave to Beau for asking about the father. So she sends him up the ladder and just slams it shut, and she's like, "We're just gonna forget about you."
Yeah, we're just going to forget about you and never talk about you again.
Yeah.
And this whole thing was from the perspective of a little kid in a bathtub. But we thought this was Beau when the flashback happened earlier. So I guess that's all you get. I mean, it's just like, yeah.
I think that's all you get out of that.
She slams him up there.
And then, so from there, he wakes up and he goes out to the highway and he's hitchhiking. And he gets a ride and he shows up to his mother's house finally. I'm assuming it's been just a couple more days, maybe just the one. And
it's like as the caterers are taking things out.
Yeah, they're packing up, and he's like, "Is the funeral happening already?" And the caterer is like, "No, it's just over right now." All right, so like after he talks to the guy about the funeral going on, he just goes ahead and like starts walking up to the house. And they make a point to show like there's like giant pillar with a statue on it, which I believe is the exact same as the figurine.
It is the exact same as the figurine he bought for his mother. Exact same. Which is like weird because he never got to,
Yeah.
He felt like he chose that at random.
Oh, he did give the figurine to the pregnant lady. I don't think we said that.
He did give did give the figurine. I don't remember the exact scenario.
I think she gave him some, he said he felt sick like after something happened in the play, and then, or maybe it was before the play started. and she gave him something that like helped soothe his stomach, and he just hands it to her, kind of. But anyways, he goes into the house. Like, I don't think anybody's in there at this point. I think he walks by somebody and is like, there's a recording playing, so it's like a recording of the service up for his mother's funeral, and he sees, it's his mother's house, like crazy awesome house too, by the way.
Oh, and he hears them say, like, her son, she leaves behind her son Beau, who's chosen not to be with us here today.
Yeah, like it's very,
and they make a point about how important he was to her.
Yeah, like her only son, who she loved throughout his whole life, like just being like very negative about the fact that he didn't make it there. And then he sees her casket. It's like down this little spiral staircase, and it's an open casket.
It's an open casket.
Just
no head.
Yeah, just no head.
But it's like they just like gussy it up at the top, where it's just like there's a lot of frills and stuff at the top. Like there's not. I mean, it's not like gruesome.
You don't see anything.
But what headless funeral is open casket ever?
Oh, and it turns out his mother is like very wealthy, like started this company from the ground.
Well, and we see there's that scene where you see like her empire over the years.
Yeah,
on the wall,
and you don't realize it until kind of this point in the movie. But like, it shows a bunch of products and like advertisements for like company MW.
Yeah,
like on the billboards and stuff earlier in the movie. And that's her company.
She's the CEO of that company.
She created,
and there's this like timeline of like highlights of them throughout the years, like photos.
And there's adverts for certain things they came out with, and like he's the
model for all these things, which never comes up before or again.
Nope.
It's just like he was the model for all of it. And it's really unusual looking, like not to disparage the kid, like not in a bad way, but just unusual looking kid they chose to play.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that kid growing up to looking like Joaquin Phoenix, maybe.
It worked. No, it worked in the movie, but it was he was an unusual, like you don't see.
Yeah, it's a very unique looking kid.
Yeah. But so
like he basically lays down and he takes a nap because it's daytime at this point. And he wakes up to hear somebody saying like hello,
and it is Parker Posey, who is the late. Oh, and he just recently, when he was walking through and looking at all the photos, one of them is like one of those photo mosaics that's made up of like all the employees who work at this company.
Well, we don't know if they're employees. It never really says, but it's like
they're all wearing the same uniform.
Yeah, and it's a mosaic of his mother. Yeah,
because that was him realizing that. Because here's why I think that, because he looks at that mosaic and he's freaking out that Parker Posey is on the mosaic wearing this uniform,
but Parker Posey wasn't the only one that like. It was Nathan Lane was on there. Amy Ryan was on there.
Maybe they all work for the company.
Yeah, it really, at that point in the movie, I was like, is this like a Truman Show type thing? Like, I had thought it earlier.
It's like everybody's employed by this one.
Yeah, and they're all having something to do with this crazy situation that's going on.
But because he realizes that she works for the company, and then when he wakes up to her, but then he can't say. She's just like, oh, I thought the funeral was at 8 p.m.
Why would
and he can't even speak to her.
He's just like staring up at her very awkwardly, and she's like, "Oh, okay, I have some flowers." And
he almost lets her leave, without saying anything. And this is the girl, that he
is the girl he's in love with. He said he'd wait for eternity for.
So he finally does say, like, remind her who he is.
Yeah, I think she's like, "Okay, I'm just gonna get an Uber and I'll wait outside."
And he approaches her and says, "You know who he is," and reminds her. And she says, "Why did you?"
I think.
At some point she says like, you waited for me, or and why did you wait for me? And he says, because I promised I would. That was a really good moment too.
Yeah.
But like
and they kiss.
Yeah, they kiss like really soon after that. They kiss, and then it's like
she's basically like,
it's like time to go down to business. Like she's like, let's find your bedroom and get this
where's
done.
The bedroom?
Yeah, like let me go ahead and you go in the shower and figure that out, whatever. Like it's just already business time.
He comes out, like he goes into the bathroom, take his clothes off, and she's like, go to the bathroom, get ready, I'll be ready by the time you get back. And he like starts taking his shirt off, and then you see him, the next thing you see is him walking out, and he's still in his clothes, and she's like, go take your clothes off.
Yeah, you're still, and he like very hurriedly gets into the bed to hide his like giant stab wound from her. So they have sex. But it's like
she puts on a song. I can't remember what the song was.
She puts on a song that was so funny in the moment. Yeah, because the mood is not. It just didn't,
they had some interesting song choices.
Didn't vibe with anything else in the whole movie, but it was like that was the perfect thing to put on there because it hadn't. It was so different from.
Was it "Say My Name"? I think it was Say
No,
My Name, Say My Name.
I don't think so. I can't
maybe.
remember what it was. But they have sex, but it's like
he's like terrified because he's gonna die when he comes.
Yeah, and
he's just like, stop.
He's desperate for her to stop, and when he does, it doesn't kill him.
And she's the funniest part to me is like she's on top of him and like it shows everything, and then when she's on top and it shows a back shot of it, you just see his massive balls and she's like sitting on
and them. This time they want you to see that for sure. Yeah. Like they know if every time up until now had been like a little hint of maybe that's what's going on, this was like a for sure, you can't miss it this time.
And it was really the really funny line that got me was she put a condom on him and everything. And then I guess after he finishes, she's like, wow, that was really a lot. I think you busted through the bag.
Yep. And then she's like, now I got to get off. And she does. And then he's like, we don't see her now.
And he's kind of just talking for a second, I think.
Yeah, he's just like, oh, so relieved because I thought that's what killed my dad and whatever.
And this is what I was going to say earlier, like him having the huge balls, I feel like was a joke about him never having in his entire life.
I mean,
he's like 40 fucking almost 50 years old. It could be,
but I think it's the other thing.
Yeah, it's the thing we're gonna get to.
But let's see. But he's saying all this, and then when he finally looks up at her, she's just frozen dead.
Like rigor mortis already kicked in these.
And I don't know about you, but I do not understand that.
I think it was like, I don't know. Maybe she had a heart murmur.
I don't know what it was, but it killed her dead in like instant rigor mortis. And
he throws her off to the side, and she's just in this weird position.
Yeah, he throws her off to the side. He's freaking out, and then he hears a voice talking to him, and she's like, "Oh, go ahead and carry on like you would if I wasn't here. If I was dead." And we realize this is his mom. It's the first time we've heard his mom in like modern time speak outside the phone. First time we've seen what she looks like.
She walks out of the bathroom and sees him and kind of berates him a little bit, like, you can't believe you would do that in my bed.
And she sends the damn cleanup team in there to just, it's like take business as usual, take the body out, and they carry her stiff as a board out
into this weird room that it doesn't really show the inside of yet.
And she just proceeds to tell him about her plans, which
I think it was a ploy to get him back there or something. I don't.
If that's the full explanation of her faking her own death, that's nuts. But this movie is nuts.
But he wasn't even surprised by seeing her because he saw the hand of the maid and there was a birthmark, and it turns out that it was the maid from when he was a kid.
She killed the maid that raised him and everything, was really close to, and he says he recognized that, but I don't know. That's not obvious that he did.
Yeah,
it's like he's lying about that, I guess. And he's like, why would you do that to the maid? She says she volunteered, and he's like, no, she didn't volunteer. And she's like, what did she say? I had to restrain her from volunteering.
Yeah.
And so we only have that to go on about what actually happened there. But
and he's like, how much money did you pay her?
Right.
It's like enough she said that her whole family will never have to work again.
Enough that her whole family quit their jobs the next day.
Yeah.
So she has this whole speech about how he doesn't really whatever. And how do we get to? I'm missing it. There's a little gap there.
So, I think that's pretty much how it is. That he follows her downstairs. And she's kind of berating him and just being real shitty to him, right? And then they sit down, and she's saying how her mother never loved her and she could never win her love over. And then she gave all of her love to him, and he's always just taken and taken and taken. And
I guess this is it. Yeah, she's just really berating him to the point of a breaking point, getting in his face and everything, and he starts choking her, right?
I don't think that happens yet.
What's something I'm...
No, he doesn't choke her. She starts playing over some speakers his therapy sessions. She's recorded all of her, and then the therapist walks out of the bathroom. He was hired by her. He knows, she knows everything about the therapy sessions, and they play a couple of those. And
the therapist is now this grinning,
really
he's
weird.
Really smiling about everything. It's
a funny situation.
Oh, and she points out or the therapist points out that her favorite episode or whatever, however he puts it, but her favorite session of theirs is this
2013 or something.
2018.
And it's him. The therapist is always prodding to get him to say something. He's just so timid. He never gets to what he wants to say. or like he'll never say it, and then he like as they're playing the therapy session, the mom's like listening to it. The therapist is asking him this question. It's like, do you want to ask about your father? And then he's like, Beau is finally like, yes, I want to know about my father. Like, I want to know. And then she's
and
like,
then the mom.
fine.
Well, so and there's the thing about the twin, like the brother.
This is what it gets to that afterwards because she's like, fine, you want to know, I'll show you. And like she takes him into that room where that ladder is that goes upstairs into the attic. And she's like, it's fine, go up there, I'll be right behind you. And then he goes up there and she closes it behind him. And she's like, it's not a dream, you idiot, it's a memory.
Right. And so that whole thing that he mentioned about the dream recurring, that the therapist kind of steered him away from. That is not a dream, and the therapist knows it's not a dream, it's real. And so now he's trapped up there in that crawl space.
He's got a little flashlight
with nothing but a flashlight that's like malfunctioning, and he sees a skinny long-haired
version of himself, who I'm assuming is his twin brother,
over in the corner, just like chained up with like a bucket, and like you can tell. And
here's the real fun part.
And then you meet his father.
You hear like these weird noises. I think he's like maybe saying "my son" or something. I don't remember exactly what it was saying.
I don't remember. I was distracted by what he was.
Yep. So it pans over, and it's just a penis.
It's just a giant penis monster.
Giant set of balls, penis head, and it's kind of got like these little pointy arms that remind me of the brain sucker from Starship Troopers.
It's like something like almost from it, or I mean, almost from The Thing, or like some kind of David Cronenberg.
It's just like an appendage that's spiked on the end. That's coming out of like the shaft of his.
It was about the least expected thing.
Yep,
because it has
very shocking.
It doesn't. I'm not complaining about it. It doesn't jive with anything you'd expect from Ari Aster up until this point. I know he's only got the 2 movies up until now, but even just everything up until this point in this movie, like nothing points to a giant like creature feature.
Yeah, it just seems like his dad would probably be up there too with his brother.
And it's a giant penis.
Some Cronenberg-esque giant cock.
And so now we
learn that
somehow
the mercenary guy didn't die.
Somehow he's not dead. I don't really.
I guess he just shot through his shoulder, maybe, and didn't get anything.
But he finally does get stabbed through the head with one of those. He gets like a
he busts through the window, runs in, and he's like unloads his gun into one testicle and starts stabbing the other testicle, and then the thing stabs him in the head.
They do a lot of practical effects to make that very gory. And so now, how does he get out of the attic though?
I think he somehow just goes back down. Maybe she opens it back up, I think, because they go back out, and the therapist is there, and she's there, and she's just berating him some more, and then he just grabs her by the neck and starts strangling her, like, really intense.
Yeah, and for a minute, like, he stops, and then for a minute there, it seems like they stopped. And
he's like, I'm sorry.
It's fine. Sorry. He's apologizing profusely and everything. And then she just keels over.
She takes a deep, gasping breath, and there's like this little glass encasement of.
It's like a little terrarium. Or something.
A little terrarium.
She falls over inside of that, and you assume she's dead.
Yeah, and then I think after that, you just see him walking across the back lawn towards like the ocean or a giant lake. I think it was probably the ocean.
He finds a boat.
Yeah, just a little motor boat. Gets on it, just starts going towards. You see like a cave in the distance.
Mm-hmm. He goes through that cave.
Yeah.
And then
he goes through the cave, and then it opens up into like this giant auditorium with every seat filled like in a circular thing.
Yeah.
And he's like gets in the middle of it, and the boat just like stops, but the motor just keeps running.
And it's like a giant public trial where there's like a giant. It's like Jumbotron.
Yeah, 4 screens facing
everybody. Probably like it looks like like 200,000 people or something. Like a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
And
it's like an amphitheater.
And it's like a giant trial
where in this cave.
On either side of the courtroom are there's a defense attorney who is
you can barely hear.
Who has like not a working microphone or like a barely working microphone, and there's the prosecution, and the prosecution is with his mother with the marks on her neck from being choked,
And it's basically talking about how Beau was never a good child.
But it's like they choose things that are so crazy to like accuse him of.
Well, and they twist it too, because it's not even not his childhood. It's like things that happened throughout the movie as well.
Like how he had sex with somebody right after in his mom's bed right after she died.
And they twist
right
everything.
After his mom died, he took this gift that was meant for her and gave it to the pregnant woman. He never hesitates to feed his therapist pet fish. He never hesitates to pet a stray dog, whatever it is. But he won't even help the homeless. And the clip they show is that tattooed guy like running full sprint at him at the door, and he's like, "We won't even give a beggar a little bit of money."
He wasn't a beggar.
And then they're just leaning into it, and eventually we don't hear from the prosecutor or from the defense attorney anymore, and somebody just grabs the defense attorney guy and throws him off the edge and smashes his head on a giant rock
he's just hanging from the middle of his head.
Water, that was. I mean, you knew there were going to be some head trauma with an Ari Aster movie.
Oh yeah,
and that probably wasn't even all of it. I'm not thinking.
I think that's pretty.
That's the head trauma we get, I guess. But so they accuse him of all this, and now like the motor has just running. The boat has just been running. The motor's just been running the whole time, but he's just stuck in the middle of everything, and now it's like falling apart and it's caught on fire and everything.
And they don't stuck. So
it's almost like they don't really wrap it up. I guess there's no wrapping it up once the defense is dead, but it's like they don't really conclude. There's not like a closing statement
sentence
or anything like that. But it's obvious it ain't gonna work out well for him and the boat.
You just hear like a weird loud noise. Like I don't know if it was supposed to be an underwater creature or
it's almost like either an underwater creature that you don't really see comes up and eats him,
but it just very violently and quickly. But you hear this weird noise, and the boat just fucking completely flips over, and you see his body kind of like slam into it.
And they're struggling underneath the boat for a while.
And I couldn't tell if, his foot was stuck and he was trying to get out, so maybe that was what it was, or maybe there was like an underwater monster.
They're struggling under there for a while, and then the struggling stops. And you just see Ari Aster's name on the screen. Well, that's the end of the movie.
Before it even stops, like so, all the people in the amphitheater, it's still happening, and like he's struggling under there, and then people just start getting up and walking out.
Yeah, and as we in real life are deciding if we need to walk out or more is going to happen in this movie, hopefully we didn't miss anything.
I don't think we did. I walked back in, and the boat was still there, and like the whole thing was empty.
But like the people are filing out too, so it was just funny to walk out. Like, it felt like them.
He's just like, it's over. You can leave.
It felt like we were them. Yeah, they're like trying to decide. Like, I guess we just go now, or. So I do like that ending. I don't think the ending's confusing. I think what's actually happening is he like died in some kind of way on the boat, and then his like judgment is like his judgment. Like this is their afterlife. And the reason I think that is his mom's up there, just not long after she was killed by him.
Yeah, very true.
With the marks on her throat.
But the thing that throws me off about that as well is like her prosecutor was the guy he was talking to on the phone when he was telling him like, why aren't you here yet?
But I think that's just a movie making a little wink from Ari Aster or something like that.
It could be, yeah.
But I think that's
but I could be wrong about that.
Attorney. But I feel like ultimately the movie was about like this vindictive mother and needing like the sin of not having courage, maybe something like that. Like not like it, like because when she's berating him, she's talking a lot about how like you never stood up for yourself. You never made a decision. You always had to have somebody else make the decision for you, and you think that makes you blameless and scot free your whole life. So there is something to be said about like. They obviously want to drive home that point that he's tied to his mother and relying on his mother, and also he has no like spine. And it's as pitiful as he is, and as sorry for him as you feel, like there are all these moments where he should have like stood for something more.
It's the name of the movie, but he is afraid of like everything.
I almost thought they were going to take it in a direction of like. A lot of this is the way Beau sees the world.
That's kind of
as
what
somebody who is hyper paranoid and like schizophrenic or something maybe.
But it definitely
everybody's out to get him.
The world.
And like maybe they were going to show like later what it was really like. Like there was really just a homeless man that was like any change, but what he sees is this guy sprinting at him and he has to run away all the time. But it wasn't that.
No,
this is a crazy.
Because even when it showed the plane ticket, I was thinking like, oh, maybe this is like New York, but. I think for the state it was like CR, so it's not.
And his last name is the name of the
It's a version
town.
of it, because the town they're from was it Wasserton?
Yeah, and his last name's Wasserman. Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, because the company's logo was WM.
Yeah, and they had all kinds of crazy products. There's a lot of little Easter eggs throughout that we could mention, but I think we should do pros and cons. So I would say I'm going to start with cons because I have so few.
Yeah,
and I have to think of them.
There's only one con that I can kind of think of that like it was a loose end, or I don't know if it was a loose end necessarily, or if like maybe it was meant to be unfinished, or maybe I just missed the point of it. Was when he was at that family's house, and the wife. There was a scene where she leans down, kind of whispers something to him, and the husband's like, "Hey, can I see you for a minute?" Like, really kind of strange that he's like trying not to let her say something to him, almost like Truman Show where.
And so I don't know. There's a couple things that could be. It could be that she did finish that thought after, because she did whisper something to him later. I don't remember what it was, but it didn't feel like that was the resolution to that thing. I get that.
But after she comes back, she's like, "Stay hydrated," and hands him some water. And after he takes the cup away, it says on the napkin, "Stop incriminating yourself."
Stop incriminating yourself.
It's like, what does that mean?
And
maybe that was because his mother was watching, like they did work for the mother, and she was watching that whole family, like, and him there seeing what he was doing.
We have 8 minutes.
That's my only con.
That's your only con
that I can think of.
My cons are subtle. I wish I had a little better explanation about why Parker Pose's character died like that, because we were expecting him to die, or
I think that might have just been it. Like, you're expecting him to die, and then it's just like maybe that's just a little funny thing that he decided to do.
It's just crazy. She dies. She doesn't just die. She dies in the moment of orgasm and turns stiff as a board immediately.
Yep.
And and the thing with his dad being a giant penis, like besides her saying like, you know what I had to go through to conceive you and all this.
Did she put that giant penis inside of her? There's no way.
I apparently
he was very
bigger around than a person, bigger around than her.
Oh, dude, he's like a column at the fucking Roman Colosseum.
So that didn't get explained. I'm borderline perfectly fine with it because I don't know. You could only explain it and make it goofier, I think.
Yeah.
So maybe it's good that they didn't explain it any further, but it's not. They don't do a lot with it. It's just like a shock factor, like crazy thing. It's not really a complaint. It's just like, were you guys going to take that?
Yeah.
Where his dad's just. There's got to be a metaphor there that we're not.
Probably.
It's over our heads or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that's my. I mean.
No more. Any other cons?
Not that I can think of. I was planning on saying that 3 hours was too long.
Honestly, no.
It had a lot to do, and it engrossed me the whole time. I was intrigued the whole time. It didn't. I'm not saying it felt shorter than 3 hours, but it felt like it needed to be, and it didn't. I wasn't losing interest at any point or looking at my watch or wondering when it was going to end. Like, it felt like it was as long as it needed to be. So that part's cool. The cinematography is great. There were moments where like they'd show close-ups of. They did a lot of close-ups of Beau or Joaquin Phoenix's face,
and a lot of times the scabs and like all the cuts and stuff on his face.
All the makeup work was super good. Yeah. There wasn't a lot of like CGI that had to be done in the movie, so you can't really comment on that. But like the cinematography was really good. The close-ups on Joaquin Phoenix's face, though, I felt like it's almost like they were either like changing his face subtly, like in post subtly to be weird and be Ari Aster about it, or just staring at his face that long made him stop looking like Joaquin Phoenix a little bit. But
he did kind of just not look like Joaquin Phoenix.
And just the weight and everything.
What you used to seeing him as,
a skinny guy.
Yeah. The score to the movie was really fantastic. It did a great job making you feel really unsettled at parts where,
especially
like just weird things.
One of the things that stood out to me was when they're doing that play and that guy's cranking this like mysterious machine that's doing this bumping bass. Like, it wasn't just bass; it was like something was off about it, where it everything is just like unsettling.
Yeah,
and the music made sure you were always unsettled, except for that one scene where it's like it's not the score; it's just her playing a song on the radio that was like completely out of place in a good way. But yeah, I think everything else is pros. I like that movie a lot.
Yeah, I definitely want to watch it again.
What would you give it out of? If we were we'll come up with something new later, but what would you give it out of 10?
I mean, You can't give it anything a 10. I feel like because
right out of the gate.
Yeah, because I mean, well, even then it's like I don't know. I'd have to go with it's like it gotta be like a solid 9.8 or something. It was really good.
Yeah, I'd say 9.5.
Yeah,
I'd say 9.5.
like I mean, I already want to watch it again, and we just saw it.
I literally might go see it again before the week is over.
Yeah.
So